Because I promise you, I can moan on about the state of British theatre pretty much for 2 hours uninterrupted. So if we get caught short, we'll go back into that. But for now, hello everybody, and welcome to One World, One Blood Bowl, number 60. Number 60. Oh, older even than I am rumoured to be. Would Blood Bowl coaches lie to you? Rather than coming up with any form of actual original thought or content, I've got to the point in my life where I'm just going to steal other people's stuff, call it mine, and hope that does. So we're going to bang the name Blood Bowl on the popular UK format, Would I Lie to You? Essentially what that's going to mean is that me and my three lovely guests this evening are going to each talk about three subjects each, giving us a total of 12, for just a couple of minutes. Just say something we think we're passionate about, or a story, or an anecdote, or a happening within the world of Blood Bowl. This will give the other three a chance to discuss that issue, and really importantly, to work out if the first person was lying or not. Not is it a good idea or a true story, but is the way they told it true. That could be fun. It could be absolutely horrendous and a total car crash. I guess we'll find out as we go. So hello and welcome to it. My name is David, also known as PurpleChest, and I have with me three other lovely people who have both human names and NAF names. Let's meet them. To my side, you must surely, and if you don't, you should, know the delightful Slaan0638. Human name, I believe, Mike. Good evening, Mike. How are you?
It is very, yeah. Good evening. Yeah, I'm very good. Yeah, absolutely looking forward to telling some lies, or possibly not. Yeah, I was a teacher for a long time, so obviously lying comes second nature to me.
It does. It
So
does. And it's
that'll be
only as
fun.
they get older that we reveal the depth of those lies and how young they started.
And I always thought there was a lot of power. As a maths teacher, I could have just made up a load of names for numbers, and they would have never been any of the clearer. Or taught in base 6, just would have been fine.
It totally would, and we might have some more interesting children. Above me, we have brand new to the show. I believe we've not had you on before. Keithabix.
Hello.
I'm guessing human name Bix.
Yeah, Bix. Mr. Bix is actually how I tend to go, but some people call me Keith, very strangely. Yeah.
Do you mind if I call you Keith, which is your name but said properly?
Whatever suits.
And of course, congratulations, recently promoted and captained by Clamour, or I don't know, show of what your underwear's like, or however you do it up there in Scotland, in Ireland, sorry, to be Irish captain.
Yeah, keeping up the tradition of the Irish captaincy, not actually being based in Ireland.
Yeah, really important that you don't know these people or see how they play.
Sure. Well, at least I actually do play in Ireland. I've yet to miss a tournament in Ireland the last 2.5 years or something. So.
And your degree has no doubt benefited from all of that international Blood Bowl based travel.
Yeah. It pays for the international Blood Bowl based travel.
Congratulations! I believe you are claiming to have maybe completed some aspect of your studies.
I have, yeah. Well, 2 degrees now, PC, so you never know. Maybe we'll go for the hat trick soon.
I mean, I've got 2. Did you ever think the second one's going to be useful?
Well,
No
the
one's ever
Masters is
asked
a
me
bit
about
better
either,
than the
to be honest.
Bachelors.
Yeah, mine are the same value, which maybe wasn't quite the point, was it?
I believe yours sound like a sheep if you use the abbreviation.
One is a Bachelor of Arts, and the other one is a degree equivalent diploma, which is quite a complex thing to be.
Oh.
But there we are. It's like if you get given one for free for starting wars. It's that sort of thing. It's an emeritus type shot. And then we have, of course, my favourite small human of mixed nationality, from both Scotland in some weird ways, but now Scandinavia, which is one country. It's Hargrim. Hello, welcome back. Nice to see you. How are you?
Thank you very much. Glad to be back as always. And just to preface, I'm not Scottish, just because I know that there are some Scots that will be angry by calling me Scottish somehow.
I am Scottish.
You're Scotch, aren't you? As Scotch as Mike is. And there's very much a Stuart Lee cut there. I do know that Scotch is only the correct thing to call Scottish people when you have more than 5. Right, so basically everyone knows everyone here, I think. The reason I brought these people on is they all have personalities, except Mike, who obviously knows statistics, so that's almost as good. And I hope that that's going to be something that adds to what we're trying to do this evening, which is to talk about some issues in a reasonably quick, reasonably amusing way, like what professional comedians do, having spent hours doing it many days of their lives. So that sounds really, really easy then. But as always, the most important thing is we have 12, I think, bitingly hot topics in the world of Blood Bowl to discuss. So I think we should just get on and discuss them. Before we do that, I guess just a quick hello and how is everybody? How's your Blood Bowl at the moment? How's your Blood Bowl, Mike? What are you playing at the moment and is it fun?
I'm going to be Amazoning most of the year. I'm on Team Scotland, and hopefully, unless it all goes pear-shaped, playing Amazons in Hungary. Hasn't started brilliantly with a bit of fumbling, but we'll get the hang of it eventually, won't we? So yeah, first tournament in Cardiff, I think, in March, in a few weeks.
Okay, my answer to the
and
question, will
I
you
was
get used to coaching the possibly most overpowered race in a rule set built
exactly.
to exaggerate the overpoweredness of that race?
I know.
Yeah, I think you'll probably get used to that.
It's a challenge, but I'm going to try and
One
step
you're
up
going to try and rise to.
Exactly.
Well, we look forward to
Yeah.
following that here, no doubt with statistics to prove it, as Mike tries to grapple with the awful task of playing the most powerful race in Europe. Hargrim, how's your Blood Bowl of late?
Pretty good, actually. I came back from Reva Bowl in Valencia in Spain a couple of weeks ago. Great tournament. Can highly recommend it. And my next one is going to be, funnily enough, with Keith in Ireland. I'm looking at playing one of 3 different races this year. Either vampires, pro elf, or high elf. But I haven't really decided fully yet which one I'm going to lock in for the rest of the year.
But something with lots of agility and no real ability to stay on the field.
Exactly.
Fantastic. I'm sure that'll suit you well. And Keith, how's your Blood Bowl of late? What are you playing? What's tickling your fancy?
You can probably just copy and paste most of what Mike said and just replace Scotland with Ireland. Yeah, I'm trying to adjust from playing 7 or 8 skill Amazons in Greece to only 7 skills for Hungary. So
as the
one less
captain, you gave
blodge.
yourself as the captain, you gave yourself Amazons.
Well, it's not actually locked in what we're
I was going to
taking.
say, you're also getting, the nicest chair, the coldest beer.
Yes, of course. That's what the vice captain's for, to come over and give me everything.
Well, I think that's we can all respect the brave choice that you're taking there, Keith. Really doing the captain's role, really taking one for the team.
Thanks, yeah.
Okay, so let's just kick off. I think I'm going to make it easy for you. I will start. So there you are. I haven't warned you who's going first. The answer is me.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with tackle is a waste on any player in NAF unless they start with it. So that is my premise here. I played a lot of online Blood Bowl before I ever came to the glorious world of tabletop, and as is known, I am a dwarf player, or have been a lot. So I have used a lot of tackle. I'm aware of how useful it can be. I do think it's vital in the meta that we keep tackle on dwarves. I can't state that enough. Otherwise, blodge teams and stunty teams are going to overrun us. But when it comes to building a NAF roster, I have taken tackle on some in the past. I'm never going to do so again. It is a complete waste of a skill slot. I can think of one team that I'm going to get into why it isn't a problem in a minute, because there's only one answer that possibly makes me wrong here. But if you think of the standard places you might put a tackle on, there is no place on an elf team. There's always better things. There's always better things with more agency. You can always wrestle it down. You can always have things about your movement, about control of the pitch, which is what you're doing well as elves. It has no place on an elf team. On bash teams, you're trying to dominate the entire field. You're trying to get the blodgers down by getting them down to just having the 2 blodgers. So you don't need to be necessarily tackling everything down, and it means you're always worried about where that one piece is, rather than blitzing with your other better pieces. So really, it only leaves your intermediaries. And your intermediaries have so many other needs for skills. They need to still be able to move around, so they need some flexibility with that. They need to still be able to hit things, so they need some block, they need some guard. They need some wrestle, because they need to be able to... That is a skill that can actually be both things at once. It can be offensive and defensive. Now, yes, you can easily put a tackle on a human blitzer. You can easily put a tackle on an orc blitzer. These are great places to put them because it already comes with block. But you know what else is better there? Frenzy. Now, Frenzy not only does, if you look at it statistically and mathematically, so I know I'm going to get back up from Mike here, Frenzy has just as much chance of taking down that blodge piece as tackle block does. If you're getting 4 hits instead of 2, it's pretty much the same odds of getting that POW, getting that ball released. What Frenzy isn't is completely pointless against 2/3 of the teams you're going to face. And tackle is. It is dead TV. It sits there stinking up your roster. You're actually hoping hoping to randomly spin into a team where it's of some use. Or you can take the whole skill band off. People have moaned on endlessly about the Hungary rule set and particularly about Athens. Oh, but in Athens, my Amazons might only have 7 skills, and I'm facing an Amazons with 8 skills. Yeah, or perhaps they put tackle on 2, and you're facing a team that doesn't have dodge, and they've dropped 2 skills without needing to. We're constantly moaning on about rule sets not being balanced, about tiering not being balanced, and we can solve some of that by just nixing the tackle. I've never seen a place for it to be, except, I admit the weak point to my only argument here, the only team I can think of where it sits so naturally is Khemri. Now, the Khemri Blitzer coming as he does with Mighty Blow and Tackle out of the box. Oh, hang on. No, it turns out I've read the rules again, and he doesn't. It's just that absolutely everyone puts that on one player. Now, I'd argue that actually Khemri, with their really, really easy access to 4 big guard pieces, can probably benefit the most from the move away from a Mighty Blow Tackle to a Mighty Blow Frenzy piece. Because again, they're going to win by having removed more of the opposition players. And for goodness sake, with all that strength around, there must be some guard. There must be some ability to back up a Frenzy piece. I think Tackle is a waste. I think we've all been going wrong by putting it on our NAF builds. And I expect 2025, after people listen to this podcast, for this to go viral. This is the TikTok bit. You don't need no Tackle if you got Frenzy. Frenzy has got Skibbity Toilet Riz.
Oh God.
Gentlemen.
I lost IQ from that last part.
It's what's going to get the views, though, really. You know.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you've convinced me, to be honest. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I think I'm convinced as well.
Except for taking tackle off dwarfs, I think that was a big move forward for the Chaos Dwarfs, wasn't it? So.
Yeah.
No, I mean no, really no. But as I said, I wouldn't necessarily have taken it off them. I thought the balance of how much we had around in the game is about right. But I just don't think you've got any place buying it onto a team.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a counter argument. Which team would you take? You did mention orcs and humans, but there are lots where you wouldn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
I played with Tackle Undead in Athens, and that was because my meta read was I'm expecting to meet a lot of Amazon, a lot of Lizards, a lot of like matchups where the tackle is going to be invaluable. So I think it has a place, and I think PC might be pulling our leg here because I think it has a place depending on what your meta read is.
So someone's saying in the chat that tackle is a lie. Is it like diving tackle and prehensile tail? Is that as long as you forget about it, then it doesn't do anything. You can just dodge. You can just dodge away from tackle, and it's fine as well.
That's not quite how tackle works, though, is it? In fairness, like even as much as a lie as it might be, it's not quite how it works. You just sit there and wait for your opponent to just forget they have tackle as you dodge away.
Well, I mean, this is always assuming they allowed you to put your tackle on their dodgy pieces, or for some stupid reason they've put their dodgy pieces on your tackle. So that's the other problem, is when you put tackle on a piece, it puts a target on it. And if you've got your Mighty Blow there, you can't be risking putting your 1 Mighty Blow piece up, hoping they fail the 2+ dodge away, which they re-roll anyway with their re-rolls. So it's completely pointless. It actually weakens your team.
I think Hargrim is right, though. It does depend what your meta read is. Like if you're going to face a lot of dodge and a lot of stunties, and you still want to tackle. In saying that, though, we've seen a big switch in War Dancers from taking just tackle, like a tackle and a strip, to frenzy. You see a lot of the big Wood Elf players taking frenzy now. So I don't know. There could be a case for it, genuinely.
And you would never build to take on stunty anyway, would you?
I mean,
No.
if you are, you're surely building to take on the wrong thing.
I mean, we have
But
this
That worrying 33%
Gnomes.
goblins win.
Gnomes don't have dodge.
Well, that's what you think.
we have this sort of saying here in Denmark that goes, you don't build towards what you're already strong against, you build toward what you're weak against. So for something like Undead, they can handle Dark Elves and they can handle the Elf races, but they're tough to play. So you would want the tackle to sort of build into and lean into that, I'm weak against this matchup. Let's try and build so that we can win that matchup.
But surely with Frenzy on a white, you can play into the strength or the guard that you've got on your mummies. You can do that same job, but you're also then a danger on the sidelines. You're also then a danger against, other stronger teams.
And Frenzy is more fun as well, isn't it?
Frenzy is a lot more fun.
Tackle is a fun sponge, and Frenzy, and we play the game for fun, don't we? So
Well, we're always claiming to.
I've seen some people not have a lot of fun at this game.
Really? Surely not.
Well, ban them from taking tackle. I think their fun will increase.
Should we also ban Tick Skull and AV Plus as well? Because that's taking away a lot of fun. You think you get a KO, and the next thing, Tick Skull, and you're like, again.
Well,
let alone Ironhard
skin. The purest form of Blood Bowl is, of course, just 16 human linemen.
I was just about to suppose that.
The amount of times I fouled Chorfs with Ironhard skin, still putting in my 4 assists and fouling, and every time I go, oh yeah.
All right, this was your easy starter for 10. So as I prepare my card to raise, I first of all want to ask you: do you agree with the proposition that tackle is a wasted skill on any NAF player unless they start with it?
No.
I disagree.
I think you are lying, but I think some people think it.
And now, could you reveal whether you think I've told you the truth or a lie? 3, 2, 1, show me.
Oh no!
Oh, you've all called me a liar.
Have I got the wrong way around?
That tale, passionate though it was, is a lie. I do not think tackle is an entirely wasted skill. There's more truth in that than you might think. It's really often I want to be brave enough to take Frenzy instead. And then I look at the amount of star abusive stunty builds around, and I try and find a way to sneak a tackle in. But I do know that that's a view people are passionate about. I thought we'd start with that nice and easy one. And some people in the chat may have been convinced by that, or indeed just listening as you slog on your way into your joyless work. Your view is your own. We've tried to put different sides to any point here. I'm going to call on, I think, Hargrim to kick us off with another one. Pick any of your 3 issues, please. Announce it, and then tell us all about it.
So, in the message I wrote to you, PC, I made a slight error in my writing. So I will correct that now. But this is going to be an anecdote from a tournament that I held in which someone got detained in between days at the event by the police. So we were having fun during day 1. Everything was running smoothly, except for Score having some problems. And while I was trying to fix that at the bar, writing to Mike, trying to, figure out what was going on, we had a couple of players who got very drunk. For the sake of the story, I won't mention any names. And, these 2 guys, one of them goes to the bathroom, comes back, looks at the other and goes, "We need to go see some breasts." The other guy just turns around and goes, "Yes." And they leave. The rest of us stay at the bar for a few hours extra and get drunk. And when I turn up the next morning, third guy, he goes, "Adam, we've got a problem." I'm like, "Oh no, what now?" He goes, person A is not coming. His teammate has been knocking on his door for the past 20 minutes, and he opened the door and said, "I'm not fucking playing," and closed the door. I'm like, okay, that problem I can fix. I can just pull them out of the drawer. Then he goes, "Adam, we've got another problem." And I go, "Oh, great. What now?" "Person B has been detained." "What?" "He's been detained by the police." I'm like, "What do you mean he's been detained by the police? Is he coming or not?" I'm like, guy waltzes up 5 minutes before the round starts, goes, "Morning, guys. I'm here. Don't worry about it." No phone, no wallet, no nothing. And just turns up and plays 2 games of Blood Bowl. Somehow. That's the story.
Okay, that's the story. Plays 2 games of Blood Bowl, having turned up straight from the cells, having been detained. First of all, is this sort of behaviour common at tournaments you've been to in Ireland, Keith? I imagine
I think it might have happened Kalon once or twice, but not common, no.
Yeah, bonus points for a Kalon diss. Mike, you've organised and heard about a lot of tournaments. This sort of behaviour, external to the tournament, impacts on the tournament. Are they common?
I think the worst one I've been at was when someone this was a long time. We're talking early 2010s, if not earlier. There was someone. There was a gut charge between two large blood bowlers in a car park, and one of them ended up splitting his head open on the in the car park. That was fairly unfortunate. But no one got arrested for that. They probably could have done, I imagine, but it was entirely consensual.
Yeah,
so I think that
consensual
probably
assault.
means.
Is that a? I mean, I know some places where you have to charge for it, but
Yeah,
let's
but
move on from
in my
that.
experience, in my 150 tournaments, no, I haven't come across anyone being arrested.
There's a good question from the chat. I think it's only fair we put this to Hargrim. What specifically were they detained for?
He got into an argument with a bouncer at a club.
I can see that. I mean, argumentative types, blood bowlers, aren't they?
Very.
Particularly as the night grills on into the 2, 3, 4 o'clock areas.
The bouncer probably said, "No,
Sorry, I should
not
explain.
tonight,
I'm
lad."
not 100% as you will hear, but I will try and keep going and try and not deafen you when I can avoid it. Keith, are you hearing about these sorts of wild behaviours, and do you think it's possible that we're being told the truth here?
It's hard to say. Like, this was in Denmark, presumably.
Yes. And this is going to be shameless plug. Copenhagen Beer Bowl. Knock it down in your calendars.
When is the Copenhagen Beer Bowl, Hargrim?
16th, 17th of August this year.
It's in the middle of the summer, and it's in the middle of Copenhagen. That sounds
at
lovely.
a lovely venue right by the sea.
Gosh, very hard to turn down. What an attractive and appealing proposition.
And I've heard you get a free reroll if you jump in the pier or something.
Not this year, but there are rules for getting free, essentially team mascots.
I did hear an off-camera story, which I won't entirely repeat, but the other day, where a Blood Bowl tournament was visited by two young women who, rather than go out to the city and try and pick up someone in a suit, decided the Blood Bowlers were what they were after. So, I mean, these sorts of real life does happen around tournaments, doesn't it?
It does.
We all know of people that have got too drunk to play the next day. How dubious are we of this held in Denmark?
Are Danes normally quite? Were they Danes who got arrested, or were they people visiting?
They were Danes.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
I
mean, I was at the National. I couldn't believe it, honestly.
I think they was very buttoned down, the Danish, all Scandinavians. So I think put a couple of beers in them and a little bit of, Viking spirit might come out, and I think we'll see them go wild.
Is that what Justicium did when he was Danish for a bit?
Ah, yes, the very known Dane, Justicium.
Okay, well, I think any other questions or holes we want to push into this story?
No, I have decided.
Me too.
Yeah.
Keith, are you with us? All right, let's see. Do you think this is truth or a lie? I'm going with
True,
and Haturt from Keith there. Thank you.
Sorry, wrong one again. Here we go.
So I guess I just reveal now what it is.
Hargrim, your reveal is
It
is true.
So a couple. Well, one guy actually did get detained at my tournament. He's in the chat as well. Jew Blood Bowl. One of our crazier Danes who likes to get very inebriated at tournaments, but he's a lovely fella.
Yeah, these things will happen. I've lost people that I'm at tournaments with, both to drink and to mental health issues. Be kind to each other, and yeah, you never know where someone's just come from. It could be the cells, I guess. Right, we so far we're not managing to fool each other. So let's see if we can do a little better there, would be my top tip. I'm going to call on the big guns, the man who comes with maths and statistics at his very fingertips. Mike, tell us a lie or tell us the truth, but either way, try and confuse someone.
I thought it was going to be Keith. But so, my one is mathematical, and I'm quite convinced about this one, which is that the D6 should be replaced with a D12 for agility rolls. I think this would improve the game massively. And for various reasons. First of all, it's cheating. As we know, Blood Bowls are notorious cheats who they'll place a d6, they will pop it in their hand and they'll slide it across the table. They will do all of these horrible things, but which are all a lot harder to do with the nice dodecahedral form of the d12. As well as that, it improves all the statistical variances you can get. There is a real problem in Blood Bowl whereby the difference between a 2+ and a 3+ is quite a lot in terms of 16% chance of success. And that is not granular enough, it's not marginal enough to take account of the fact that there is somewhere between a 2+ and a 3+ that the D12 would allow. So
Sir, aren't there infinite numbers of places between a 2+ and a 3+?
We're going to go for decimal dice.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think of a. So what would it be? It would be a 3+ and a 5+ would be the equivalent of a 2+ and a 3+. But between those, you have this lovely 4+, which allows you a bit of intricacy. It also allows you intricacy between +1 and +2. Everyone hates +2, for example, on an injury roll. Which is not necessarily relevant to my argument, but you could have a +1, you could have a +2, you could have a +3, you could have a +4 on the agility rolls, and get a bit more variance in there as well. As well as that, I think they look nicer. I think that you get. I don't. We might come back to this, but having a diagram on one of the sides isn't great, and that's less likely to happen on a D12, because you get fewer custom dice. There are fewer custom D12 makers than there are custom D6 makers. It's a lot more difficult, and the size is more difficult to do as well. But then the most important one is that the probabilities are a lot harder to understand. One of the problems with Blood Bowl is that any old joker can just rock up and understand the maths behind rolling a d6 and then re-rolling a d6. It's really easy to understand and compare two sort of activities in terms of how easy they are. If you put the d12 in, then that would allow a bit more elitism. You'd have to understand a bit more about the maths to sort of do well in Blood Bowl. And I think what's the opposite of leveling the playing field? Whatever the opposite of that is, has got to be a good thing.
Rigging the deck, but in favour
yeah, exactly.
of the...
Yeah. It needs a higher skill.
Skill
it's too
level
easy.
involved.
It's too easy to get into Blood Bowl. And if you made the probabilities harder, then that would definitely.
I mean, it wouldn't actually make it any harder to get in, but it would make it harder to master. That's what we're
Yeah,
going to do,
absolutely.
isn't it? That difference between involved and having fun and being good. Slightly high gradient there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So, hopefully I've convinced everyone with that argument.
I thought this would be so easy to dismiss, but that was actually quite some... In terms of do I agree with the argument, that's much harder than I thought it was going to be. Hargrim, where are you coming in on this? Should we be moving to D12s?
Maths is not my strong suit, so based on that premise alone, I'm going to say no, please don't, because then I'll be shit at Blood Bowl again.
Which is kind of the point, isn't it, though? You see, that was one of my arguments.
But in all honesty, I think it would actually be healthy for the game to replace like agility rolls with a D12 instead of a D6. It would certainly change a lot of the dynamics.
I mean, I do think
I forgot one of my arguments
limited
as well. I forgot one of my arguments was about the passing, and because I think if you had the D12, then you could probably do something in terms of passing, getting rid of the passing stat, because you could use the agility a bit more cleverly. There'd be a bit of nuance in there as well. Probably
you can suddenly have maybe agility of 4, but with catching of +4.
Yes,
you're not
Blood Bowl
very
2
agile
style.
moving around, but my goodness, you can take a catch. Because you've got such a wide range to fit all those little gaps and big gaps within.
Absolutely. Although I will have absolutely no truck with anyone mentioning a D16, and the D16 should be burnt in hell.
Agreed.
Okay,
especially the one that comes in the box.
Why is a D16 a bad thing compared to a 12?
Well, it's not a platonic solid. It doesn't have the same equilateral face on each side. but also the one that comes in the box has 1 to 8 on the bottom and 9 to 16 on the top, which
Yes,
is
which
just
is
ridiculous. You could just
utterly
flip it,
wrong.
and yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, D12s are beautiful.
Okay, I mean, I do get that they are a more coherent mathematical construction, aren't they? Because, yeah, each plate is the same and it fits together beautifully to form the shape that they are supposed to be. But, I mean, I have an obvious question, which is, when we went to decimalisation in Britain, we decided that 10 was quite a reasonable number to work with because, oh, look, that's how many fingers we have. Could we not have the same amount of granularity with our agility rolls if we went to a D10?
You could probably just use a calculator. You could use that, that shift point on a calculator. It just generates a random number between 0 and 1 to 3 decimal places. You could use that and go full
Maybe we just get rid
maths.
of dice altogether and we just use a random number generator.
If we just play with the computer, then it'll be fine.
Yeah. And then sometimes show up in person.
Yeah. We wouldn't need to talk though, would you? You could just yeah. But with the with everyone using chess clocks are becoming more and more mandatory now, aren't they? So you've obviously you need a computer beside the side of your pitch, so you might as well include a random number generator in there and just press a button every time.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
mean, we're all using
I'm nearing on a
PurpleChest
decision
anyway.
here. Keith, do you have any more questions or concerns?
I've so many, but let's move on. I have a lot of concerns.
Hargrim.
I'm too confused. It's too much math. It hurts my humanities brain.
Okay, so firstly, just about the whole idea. Are you persuaded that a D12 should replace the D6 for agility rolls?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely persuaded that a D12 should replace the D6 for agility.
That would be good for Blood Bowl.
I think it would be healthy for Blood Bowl.
Keith?
No.
See, I've read
It's a
this
good
stuff
argument.
before. It worries me. I can see the point, but I'm not... I just think people are so used to a D6 in their hand that having anything else as the main dice, people are rolling a lot. I just worry that that's a barrier.
Rolling, sliding.
Well, yeah, or plopping. Yeah, absolutely. Or if you're Kalorn, grubbing it up with your filthy, greasy little hands. All those meat juices seeping down into the dice. So I'm not convinced by the argument, but the real question is, do we think Mike is convinced by the argument? So on 3, 2, 1, what do we think Mike's done here? Oh, okay. Oh, we have our first split decision. I was with you on true until he said we need a bigger barrier to entry. I just don't. I don't think he believes that, and that's where I went. No, this whole thing's a sack of lies.
And you're absolutely right. That is the thing against it. Yeah. I'm a big fan of bringing maths to the masses. So being able to understand the probability is one of the big bonuses. I played Elf Ball for a bit, which is Impact's Blood Bowl variant, and the maths behind that are insanely complicated, and that was one of the barriers. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've read them before. You can do all sorts of cool things with different dice and create all sorts of different, bell curves of probability and, as you said, impacts and space to put bigger bonuses in within and things. But it's just that people know what a D6 looks like. That's what they expect in a simple game. And I would be hesitant to move away. Now, we have only the newcomer to the show. We've kept him dry on the bench as long as he's kept himself dry, and that's not my business. Let's welcome Keithabix and his first issue. What are you going to talk to us about, Keith?
I don't know. Am I dry? I had a shot of whiskey earlier. So, about 50%, I'm sure Mike will help with the stats later, 50% of the Team Ireland players going to Hungary, or home nations indeed, want to play Renegades or OWA, at least on the applications they feature, in a rule set, which necessarily doesn't scream amazing for Renegades or OWA. OWA, I guess you can have your tackle and your mighty blow and your sneaky get 30 players. But should we have tackle? Maybe it should be frenzy mighty blow. Who's to say? So yeah, it's a really interesting one. And obviously it's something I have to deal with as a captain. Because, for example, raw numbers, 5 out of 11 players, because I'm obviously not going to pick either of those, going to Hungary want to play Renegades, and at least 3 of them have them as their first choice. And I can only have 1 Renegade player in the Open and in the Bowl, so someone's missing out on the Renegades, unfortunately. And then I have another 2 people who want to play OWA. And so I guess I can appease them and put one Renegade and OWA into the open and then Renegade and OWA in the bull. And yeah, everyone can have a great time. And yeah, then I have 3 subs for home nations because unfortunately not everyone can make it. Loughborough is just too out of the way to get to compared to Budapest for us Irish folk. So yeah, and then out of the 2 of the 3 subs, I have a Renegade and an OWA applicant as well. So yeah, Ireland just loves Renegades and OWA. We've had one fella who's won 2 tournaments with OWA recently, and we have another person who basically just plays Renegades. Every tournament, Renegades with a Minotaur and a Rat Ogre and an Ogre. And then whatever other spice you can throw in as well. Always gets most casualties because, you know, half the time you're playing against kids anyway. And is always getting on the podium. I think he's got 2 or 3 tournament wins. So yeah, I guess my question is really, why aren't other countries looking at how good Renegades and OWA are? Because we've nailed it down. And then for extra spice, we have someone else who's really, really considering Black Orcs. So, and then I was thinking, you know, I was saying I'm mostly on the Amazons, but I'm kind of leaning towards Gnomes, although a bit limited with the whole lack of dodge. You can only have 2 extra dodge. So yeah, that's I suppose that's my question. Do you believe me that about 50% or more want to play Renegades and OWA?
You can have 4 dodge if you leave the foxes at home. That'll be a.
You might as well leave the gnomes at home. Then, though, if you're leaving the foxes at home, come on. They're the heart of the team.
The first thing I had to say was this was an instant, yes, he's telling the truth because he's gone with the about 50%, which is such a wonderful way of including anything from about, you know, could be 3 people, could be 7 people. But we've had a lot more granularity on the numbers now, and I'm interested enough to drill down a bit. What do they say appeals to them about Old World Alliance particularly, which does not spring off the paper to anyone? No one's been going, oh, LWA and ROP.
But I think it's just a nuance, so it isn't really like, you know, you get some humans, you can have a tree, you can have some dwarves, you get some guard, tackle mighty blow, DP sneaky gate, you know, you get your Snurty and your Tammy and whatever else they christened them in Jimmy's channel a couple of months ago.
Tammy?
I don't know. Tam. It sounds better. If you're going Snurty, you have to go Tammy, right?
Yeah, fine.
You can't just go Tam and Snurty, yeah. Yeah, I mean we're quite fond of our OWA in Ireland. In fairness, my vice captain has taken him to the last Euro Bowl and the World Cup with Zug both times, I think. So yeah, honestly, there's a complete fight in amongst the ranks. Who's going to take Renegades? Who's going to take OWA? And you know, who's going to play Black Orcs?
Well, I'm sure it's the same across Europe.
I think so.
The big question gets settled: who gets to ride that just wind chariot of Old World Alliance, and who gets to second them with their Renegades? I mean, this is amazing, isn't it? This is what happens when you get. It's like the few communities of red squirrels still alive in Britain, just because they've been cut off from all the grey squirrels all around them. Is this what happens when no one's telling Ireland how to play Blood Bowl properly?
Yeah, we need to introduce a few more pine martens around to get rid of the grey squirrels, so that the red squirrels can bounce back. I think so. If we could introduce the Blood Bowl equivalent of pine martens into Ireland, then we can get rid of the Renegades and the OWA, and long live lizards and undead.
So clearly, this is as much a sort of a confession and an apology ahead of time to the people of Ireland, and an explanation as to what will and will not be happening in Hungary.
I'm enjoying that if it's not true, he's just throwing the Irish under the bus, and everyone is just saying, "Yep, I can believe that."
Honestly, having met quite a few of the Irish lads and having been to an Irish tournament, I can't see how this is just not, well, wrong. This is 100% true.
All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, it instantly appeals to me, and I mean, even since they've sobered up, they're of a mind as to how they want to play their Blood Bowl, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's not, I wouldn't call it responsive and flexible.
They like to bang on the men's.
They do.
But who beat England at the Euro Bowl? And who beat Scotland at Home Nations?
Indeed, perhaps there should be some more respect paid here. As a prospective England player, I confess that one of the reasons we've been brought in, frankly, the new caps, is to sort that sort of shit out.
Are you going to be the Pine Martin? Are you going to head over and with your tackle?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I'll even be making the squad, mate. We will see. I think I can go straight to a vote on this one. I think I had all the information I needed when he said most of my Irish teammates. Hargrim, any questions, concerns, or worries?
Nope.
Okay, do we save our time then for one that might need some more discussion? Let's go with a vote. Do we think this story is true or a lie? 3, 2, 1, vote.
True.
We
I
all think you're telling us the truth. Keith, have we dismissed Irish Blood Bowl? No. No, we all four of us knew.
Amazing.
With sad inevitability that this one was going to turn out to be true.
And will they end up on the team?
We wanted to believe so much, but we could not.
Yeah. Amazing.
Very, very funnily, I won my first Blood Bowl tournament about 2 weekends ago, and won the first 2 games. And in my final 3 games were Renegades, Renegades, Renegades.
All through with Borak, wasn't it?
One of them had Glart instead of Borak, but yeah, it was nice to mix it up.
I mean, who knows? Maybe Chaos Dwarves will be next. Perhaps Ireland will cut itself off, become its own little petri dish, and develop its own unique way of playing Blood Bowl, which can then all inflict upon us at a Euro Bowl in the future. Okay, so after one complete round of people talking bullshit, we have it's Mike out in the lead on 4 points. Myself and Keith are both hanging in there with 3, and Hargrim is on our tails in his traditional position at the very back with 2 points. We're going to move into round 2. I think we should go with our leader, so I'm going to ask Mike to spin another tale of lies and intrigue. Let's hear what you're talking about, and we'll decide if we think it's true.
So this is about a subject that is very dear to my heart. I don't know if anyone knows, but I was NAF president once. You know, in my youth.
Never cropped up.
It's never come up. Well, okay, I should mention it more often. Put it on my t-shirt. But yeah, I think the NAF is stagnating. I think that numbers are plateauing of people involved, and I just think that NAF should grasp the bull by the horns and bring out an extra fan race every year to add to the existing Games Workshop races. So it was actually under my watch that Bretonians and Khorne got included in the NAF database. And obviously Slaan have been going for a while. Everyone loves Slaan. No one thinks Slaan are going to be removed at any point. Since then, obviously, we've had the Knobs and the Blackhawks and the Snotlings, and some people like OWA, I've heard, and some people even like Blackhawks, which is really weird. But yeah, there's such a clamour, and Games Workshop are moving too slowly with their races. They've come out with nonsense like Gnomes when there are things that are desperate to be included. So Simeon should have been included ages ago. They were. I can't remember where they came. They were in Fumble originally, but they got sort of adopted as Black Orcs with all the grab and stuff. But they had this fantastic thing with extra arms, so that they got +1 to pickups, but were still not able to dodge very well, which is really clever. So with fan races, you get this sort of group think that you don't get from the Games Workshop development team, who are making lots and lots of stupid mistakes. Like the Gnomes are just a nonsense team. But yeah, fans often talk. There's talk of a Zinch team. There's talk of whatever the other one was, Slaanish. Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the next 2 there. Space Marines come up every now and again, but I won't put that in, because then that will obviously mean that I'm lying, because no one thinks the Space Marine team is a good idea. But there are loads of good ones. I think some of us are keen fumblers, and there's the whole secret league in there, and there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't just keep the game alive by just including one NAF sanctioned more official race every year, and keep it going that way.
And you'd see these as available at NAF tournaments?
Yeah, compulsory.
So compulsory people to include them as available?
Yeah.
And as you said, with things like the Fumble Secret League, we have a place where some rosters are being constantly tested, reviewed, refined, played against other weird rosters, but also normal rosters. statistically we could say, look, here are the 3 or 4 that seem really balanced. Which one do we
Yep.
pick this year? Add a new one in each time. Cool. Keith, what's your view?
I just want to pick up on the whole NAF stagnation. Surely we're in a Blood Bowl golden age, and there's more people playing Blood Bowl at NAF tournaments than ever. So,
But in the same boring way, it's not. Some people have solved 2020. It's been around for 5 years, hasn't it? And it's just become point and
But
click to a certain extent, hasn't it?
But we do get really fun
Gnomes have
teams,
mixed
don't
the
we?
meta?
Oh yeah,
Fun teams?
yeah.
Like what?
No. Like gnomes.
Yeah, I'm going to put
Gnomes are
down a
wonderful.
barrier into gnome discussion here, as that may be cropping up later. Hargrim, let's bring you in on this. What do you think? Are you convicted? Persuaded by the arguments? Convinced?
I'm not persuaded. I like the way Blood Bowl is as is right now. I don't think the NAF is stagnating. The numbers are increasing every single year from the data that Mike has been publishing. I believe it's Mike at least.
It's not just about numbers, though.
Yeah.
It's about engagement, keeping people in the game, excited by
I
it.
think the problem comes down to, if it's fan made, where do we set the limit, and how do we filter out all the ideas that people have? Because I see from Blood Bowl community on Facebook, I see a lot of ideas floating around, and 90% of them are not good. 90% of them should be kept like homebrew, local league level stuff, instead of being filtered out to the rest of the greater community.
Yeah,
Because
9 out of 10 people that design a team design a Space Marine team, don't they?
Yeah,
Where
pretty
everyone has
much.
Strength 5, Agility 2+, Armor 12+, and Claws, Mighty Blow, and Yoink the ball whenever they feel like it, or whatever other skill they decide they need.
The question for me becomes, how do we filter out the good ideas from the bad ideas? And then that is an entirely different logistical problem. Say we have a community of 40,000 people. This is just hypothetical. Say we have a community of 40,000 people. About 10,000 of those people send in fan-made teams. How are we going to filter out the good from the bad when someone has to manually sit through 10,000 teams and read 10,000 teams?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think you need a petri dish like the Fumble Secret League, where there is 100 teams knocking about, and we can say, okay, well, we start with, you have to have survived 12 months there and have a win record between 45 and 55 to be even considered. So we can start with that sort of metric. That means teams already start out looking fairly balanced. I would suggest that will tend to bring them in strong as more people get to use them, and then you nerf them down a little bit from there. We're already writing rules for Slaan, for goodness sake.
Yeah, and the Blood Bowl Rules Committee was a thing that existed between 2003 and 2012 or so. It's not a new concept. It would just be something that we brought back to give a bit more ownership to the community rather than being dictated to by Games Workshop overlords.
Well, we'd also, I think pretty quickly we'd get 2 streams opening up. There is already non-NAF sanctioned tournaments, lots of them, happening all over Blood Bowl, all over the place. So I think we would get some more of those. And I think Games Workshop, with its its own publications, we might get some more run under that sort of banner. So there might even be 2 distinct sort of ways of playing tournament Blood Bowl, which would probably be a good thing with the sort of numbers we have at the moment. Everything filling as it is, to actually sort of, say, okay, do you want to go to A or B rather than just 18 types of A, might be a better offering to the world.
Could be a pushback to the Eurobowl rules that some people don't like. They've made it too conservative, possibly.
Yeah, what if you could suddenly drop sea elves in there? Or Strigians.
Do they get a dragon?
Firmir. And all these other names I occasionally hear, which mean very little to me as someone that isn't really into the fluff. Okay, I think this is another one that I've got my mind made up on. Keith and Hargrim, do you have further questions or supplemental ideas or issues you wish to raise?
No.
Nope. I just hope I'm right.
Okay, so the first question is, do we agree with the thesis that the NAF should be inventing or allowing the invention of a fan-added team every year? Personally, do you think that statement holds water? Not do you think Sand does, that's the next question. Did you agree with the argument first? Hargrim.
I think it'd be interesting from a community perspective. It might help to broaden like community engagement. It might help bring together people to like sit down and look at like, right, we want to create a team for whatever reason. Let's create a team, send it to the NAF, see what they see, see what they say. Sorry, and then take it from there. I think it'd be great for community engagement. I also think it might be interesting for the game to see newer teams start coming up that aren't just GWs. We've made a team. They have their unique special rule, and we're just seeing more and more power creep. I think it'd be a way to sort of help balance out the game slowly but surely with the addition of new teams.
Keith.
No, not at all. I think there's far too much fluff and messing around already in Blood Bowl. A lot of my very, very dear Blood Bowl friends are taking step backs and wanting to quit Blood Bowl because of stuff like Gnomes and ridiculous star players being added time after time. Like, we're already getting new star players every like 2 months at this rate. Besides adding like a new team every year as well that fans make up, it's not for me.
But I think star players are a much worse problem than new races. I would sort of rule against new skills. I think you need to be inventive within the skills that currently exist, which is why the extra arms in the Simrium was so clever.
Yeah, like a lot of the new skills could just be slightly reworded and it'll be the original skills. And I think that's a big mistake GW are going with anyway, is like, oh, let's have this star player who can reroll 1 block a turn, as opposed to like 1 block a half, 1 block a game. Like, we've about 6 star players who have the same skill but slightly different wording, which means they're completely different.
And then Grim
I don't know.
Ironjaw, who has just junk as always.
Yep.
But he's got frenzy, so that's good.
Right. Look, I thought this would be another really easy one, but while I think it's easy to decide if I think Mike thinks this, I'm a lot more confused as to whether I do. To me, this is an instant no. Don't be stupid. But the more I think about it, would it be harmful for the NAF to have a pack of, say, 6 semi-official teams? That they said, if you want to go beyond the standard rules, here are 6 races and rosters for them that we think don't unbalance the game. I think that could be kind of cool. And if it meant that we occasionally got to play those 6 races, I'm not sure I'd want 50. But just add half a dozen more, say, and then every year you could rotate one out, another one in. Games Workshop could see some data on them, see what they thought. No one's taken any ownership because they're all completely unofficial. Games Workshop could grab it, make it official, start making money, and everyone would be... I think that might be not a terrible place to be. Am I mad? Have an opinion,
comment
Keith.
from
I can see you want to say yes.
I don't know. I disagree, but I actually think Mike believes it. Is my full thing. But I
Okay.
disagree. It's not where I want to see Blood Bowl going.
I
Yeah.
think he's inveigled another then. Hargrim, has my passionate defence of this as an idea swung you in any way?
I'm not entirely convinced by the argument. Do I think Mike believes it? I think considering he wants like broader community things and the development of the community, I'm gonna say that he believes it.
All right, then it's time to vote. Now, the vote, recall, is not do we agree with the proposition. The vote is do we think Mike agrees with what he has said, that there should be a NAF-curated, NAF-invented team added once a year to help with fan engagement and the community. Is it true or is it a lie? 3, 2, 1.
Marvelous. It is a lie. I like Games Workshop. We should all. The thing that brings the community together is everyone playing the same rules.
Wow.
Thank God for that.
Okay, so Mike gets a big old
He's
4
still
points
talking
there.
to me, Keith.
Nothing for Hargrim or Keith, and 1 little point for me. We really need
Please
him
excuse
to
us while
not get
PC
many more of
tries
these
not to
right.
die.
He's being too smart for us. Okay, I'm gonna roll in another one of mine. This we've had a little bit of, so we're gonna have a little bit more. It is my thesis, less of a sort of ranty overdone thing. This time I'm going to be just honest and normal and ordinary with you. It is my thesis that the passing stat, much against my huge expectation, has been the term qualified is doing a lot of lifting here, a qualified success. It has allowed the diversification of skills into skill groups again, which has made some sense. Some of the passing skills are not up to scratch. They could use some buffing in there, some more thought, some thought, a thought, give them a break there. But I think separating it out has allowed us to have slightly better, more specialist throwers. And I'm not sure that's bad for the game. I'm not sure the implementation is great. But I just think it's kind of worked, kind of moved in the right direction. So based on this and the fact that I'm hugely old, I remember the original rules of Blood Bowl. Every player had a cool stat. Now, I don't know why they called it cool, mainly because in the 80s things were cool. So it was cool. And your cool allowed you to jump over people, but also to catch the damn football. And I think if we're going to go with more stats, I don't necessarily want them not on D6s, but I do want more specific stats. I can understand why a human catcher isn't necessarily able to leap gracefully over players the way a war dancer does. But when his sole job in the entire world is catching the damn football, why does he drop it 1 in 9 times without any interference? That doesn't feel reasonable to me, and it's not helping me want to throw the football. So, having not been a fan of bringing more stats in, having thinking passing stat was a ludicrous addition that we didn't need, there were other ways through specific skill or specific skill access we could have handled that. I'm now coming round to thinking not only is passing stat a good idea, but that we should add some form of catching stat, and that should be separate from agility like dodging, running and picking things up and leaping. That there should just be something that's just about catching. If we're going to bring catching and throwing back into the game, we need to make them less risky than they are, but still possible. We need to make catching an accurately thrown football better than being handed something off, so that people want to do it more than just hand off. Because at the moment, obviously, why wouldn't I hand off? I've still got the same catch roll, but I don't have to throw. So we need to change that basic decision where why would I ever add anything, even if it's only 0.3%? Why would I add it to a known risk? So that known risk has to be 2 different risks. And the way to do that to me is to bring some beauty and some glory back to the joys of passing the football. We've gone halfway, let's go the whole way. Let's try a rule set with a passing stat. That is what I believe. Gentlemen, do you agree, and do you believe that I believe it?
Why catching specifically? Are there other things? What about picking up the ball?
I mean, I was kind of... I meant to have a rethink of this based on your D12 for agility. Because I do think the number of people that fail to pick up the ball isn't okay. I think it should be a risk, but I think for Khemri to pick up the ball half the time, and that's before it rains, is not okay for the poor little things. But I think principally the main fault with Blood Bowl, as the idea that it's in any way related to American football, is that we all try not to throw the damn football. So I think that's a change just in the how we bed the rules in, what we think of this game as being, that we've lost too much of for too long now, and no one's being attempting to bring it back. So I'm going to bring back passing 25 by introducing a catching skill.
I'm not convinced.
I actually agree. This I agree about the passing. I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes out. I don't know why I'm defending you, PC, but this was actually going
We're
to be
defending
one
a
of my...
viewpoint, Keith, not me as a
Yeah,
human. You can still
no,
hate me, but believe what I say is true.
that's true, and vice versa, I suppose. Yeah, no, that like genuinely, the passing was going to be one of my topics of discussion until someone stole it. But
Someone who was booked first had already reserved it.
yeah, someone got there and told me I remember talking about it. So yeah, no, I think it's pretty good. Passing, the actual passing skills now is another thing, but
Like I said, there's a lot of problems with it. They're not. I'm not claiming it's a perfect system, but whereas I thought I'd hate everything about it, I like the underlyings. I just don't like pretty much any of the implementation. And I've still got this
I think
problem
so.
between why wouldn't I run over there and just hand it to him? Because it's a 1 in 36 to fail the catch. Why would I throw it? Is it then more risk and still the 1 in 36 to fail the catch? So
Yeah.
the way they've sorted the risks out doesn't seem like it's right. And I think the way to solve that is to bring in a catching stat.
So would you make catching easier than if you were handed off the ball?
If you're a catcher, yes. If you're wearing a catcher's glove in baseball, if
Right.
you've trained your whole life to be a human catcher, to
Okay.
make that move and look over your left shoulder for the ball coming to you, yes, that should be easier than someone handing you off the ball in the middle of a game. But then perhaps there should also be, because we'd then have a whole, presumably, raft of catching stats, there should be some rugby-related ball handling skills in there as well, maybe. Or you catching them, passing and catching into two halves, and you give them a bonus in rolling their randoms by making only 6 skills available because they are shopping in such a niche area. I do apologise. I think there are ways of doing it that don't ruin the system they've got. I just think bringing the passing stat in hasn't solved the problem of passing. It's solved the problem of passers. But that's only half the equation, isn't it? You need a catcher at the other end of it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the passing stat in some ways, in that a gutter runner should be able to dodge, but shouldn't necessarily be able to throw. They shouldn't be as good at throwing as they are at dodging, for example. The problem is that the elves have become really bad at throwing, and
Yeah.
that's probably a mistake. And one of the nice things about elves was lots of the team being able to throw, and there's no reason why that shouldn't still be true. But that's not a problem with the mechanic. That's a problem with how it's been implemented on different teams.
I don't think it was ever a problem with the mechanics. It was a problem with the coaches who abused it by just randomly skilling up whatever player they felt like, rather than in any way trying to play the game of Blood Bowl.
Like, most elf teams still get 2 throwers, and that's more than enough for someone to be able to reliably throw the ball.
Not on defense though, because you scramble to you get the ball loose and then you scramble to get it free, and then you
Yeah,
need to
but
be able,
elves are
you need
good
to be able,
enough.
you don't want them to be able to move 24 squares in a turn, just no matter where their
Like-
players end up.
Elves are faster, they're more agile, they can easily dodge in, pick up the ball in a tackle zone, dodge out and hand it off. They don't need to be able to run in with a war dancer and pick it up and pass it into their own screen. You know,
just want to see more renegades and more old world in the game.
Yes.
That's all it is. It's an elaborate plot.
But like we've all been in games where like a war dancer will come in and pick up the ball in a tackle zone and dodge out and run behind the screen anyway. And you've never gone, oh damn, I feel sorry for them that they can't just lob it to the other side of the field now while they're at it. I'd actually go a step further with the passing in that I think you should separate passing and TTM, so that if the ball lands deep, you can have a goblin fire it up to the LOS and then still be able to throw for the 1 turn. I think the fact that you were limiting stunties to, you know, a random kick and it's in the end zone, and now all of a sudden they can't do one of the things that they've like an 8% chance of succeeding anyway, is but that's not what we're arguing. But since we're talking about passing, I'd like that.
Stunties are meant to be bad, though. That's what
They
people
are,
forget.
yes. Can we stop expecting stunties to be competing all the time, please?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to bring the game back to what it wants to be, which is a stupid game of American football. And for that to happen, I think we need the ball in the air more.
I'm just trying to figure out if the catching stat would help that.
I don't
Do you
think
think people find it? Do you think people find it? People don't find it too difficult to catch the ball, do they? Apart from humans.
I mean, maybe we need to move towards a system where everything's on a D10. And you have strength, defense, agility, catching, throwing, dodging, passing, running, jumping, leaping, etc., etc. But I just think here it's where the passing stat, we've gone in one direction. We've sort of gone halfway there. Let's go all the way.
What are those things called in Age of Sigmar, where you have each each figure has a stat sheet, don't they?
It's called a war scroll card.
A war scroll. We should have a war scroll for every position with many stats on it. It's the natural evolution.
Okay, your discussion time is at an end. Any more questions for me?
Nope.
I do apologise. I have been very unwell this week, and I thought I was getting better, but clearly I've just had a bit of a violent coughing incident. Let's hope it gets better from here. Firstly, then, do you agree with my thesis? We should now be looking at bringing in a passing stat.
Catching stat.
Catching stat to join the passing stat. So, do you agree with the idea, just as a basic idea, Keith?
I don't agree with bringing in the catching stat, no. I agree that passing is fine as it is.
Okay, Hargrim?
I disagree as well. I think the implementation of passing needs to be changed because it's not really incentivizing passing as much as I think Games Workshop intended them to. But I don't think a catching stat will solve much. I think it would overcomplicate a lot of things for a lot of people to like have an extra stat people need to look at.
Everyone's been fine
And
with the
memorise.
passing one. Mike?
Have they? I agree with the other two.
Okay, now, do you think I believe this? Raise your truth or lie cards now. It's a lie.
It's a lie.
I'm not getting away with anything tonight. No points to me, and one each to each of you. Okay, we have some issues left to cover. Keith, what are you going to talk to us about?
I think I'll save the best for last, will I? Okay. So, I
Always do the
attribute
people
my...
alike in the last 15 minutes of a 2-hour podcast. It really helps me out. Good.
He's keeping people watching is what he's doing. He's done this
Yeah,
before.
yeah. Have I streamed before? I don't know. I attribute my getting good at Blood Bowl thanks to, in part, to the lovely Hargrim, but mostly to one-on-one training sessions with Dionysian or Spence or Maximum Derek or whatever he felt like going by in whatever week. So I
Big Daddy
recently
Love
won.
639 on the website. I go on with him.
Well, that's just his poker handle. So I recently won my first Blood Bowl tournament. I also became a legend on Fumble very briefly, but I've been up there, and I genuinely think I'm playing some of the best Blood Bowl I have ever. And that is all down to one-on-one conversations and calls and training sessions with Dio. So we just talk about it, and most of it is just about the mental mind state, and obviously replays and reviews, and if I made this block, then you freeze up hits on the ball, or whatever stuff that I was not capable of seeing before. And because of this training and the mental stability I've built up and the rapport I've built up with Dio, I've created my own mind palace. I've played Blood Bowl on the ceiling. I've subscribed to Huel. I have 2 big bags of Huel in the kitchen right now, and I start every morning with my Huel. And I also tried the mac and cheese, but I don't know. I'm not really too gone on the mac and cheese by Huel. And don't get me started on the fruit and nut bars. They're trap. Yeah, and at the end of the day, if you play good enough and you put your players in the right squares, there are no dice, and you just play and win.
Wow. Okay, so back from the dead to haunt us, the delightful Spence, who is one of those people I hope will come back to Blood Bowl. People have asked me to do an episode on people that leave Blood Bowl. The difficulty with that is, of course, they've left Blood Bowl. So getting them to want to come back on and talk about leaving Blood Bowl is often tricky. So I might be able to do one with people that have come back to Blood Bowl having left Blood Bowl. But that also requires people to have come back after a notable absence. So I'm working on it and trying to work out how we can talk about that, but it's not easy. Okay, what do we think? Has he been training in the Mind Palace of Dio?
So when was your last session?
Well, so he hasn't done a lot recently. So a lot of this was probably about 12 months ago. We did speak quickly over Christmas. We had a brief re-collaboration because obviously he went completely radio silent during the summer
You did.
after probably a couple of weeks after Home Nations, I think, and then missed out on the Euro Bowl, of course. But yeah, we reconnected. He, you might have seen he popped up recently in his own Discord again. And yeah, so we've been chatting back and forth again. He, of course, christened me the next big thing after Hargrim won Water Bowl. So, or Hancock, yeah. I said you, sorry, yeah. You can win Water Bowl next,
That's when
Hargrim.
he knew he'd fucked up.
Yeah, so we've reconnected recently, but a lot of it was back when he was streaming. He had a brief renaissance of coming back streaming Fumble. So we reached out and we had a couple of one-on-one training sessions. It was pretty cool. And, we were both playing Zons last year. I don't know if you noticed, he took Zons to the Home Nations as well. So it was really, really cool just teaming up with him, looking at a couple of practice games with Zons here and there.
Did you pay for it?
No. I wouldn't pay for coaching. And honestly, I don't think people should be paying for coaching. I think just company with one-on-one, have some chats, have some banter. That's it. But whoever, people who do charge for coaching, that's fine. People have to make a living, right?
No, I'm not having that. Having spoken to plenty of people that do charge for training, and I do, it's not something I punt out a lot, but I do take some trainees on. It's more about you don't want. Sometimes there are people that just want a bit of time and attention, and if that's what you want, then I at least want to get a free curry out of it. Frankly, I love talking about Blood Bowl,
sure.
but I want a barrier to make sure the person that's spending time with me doing that wants that too.
Yeah,
and that
I've
found
trained
is the only
a few
way to do
people.
it. That said, I always talk up all the free routes first. The 145 Club, the amount of YouTubes, the amount of just streamers with Discords where you can ask good questions and get good answers is numerous. So really, whatever works for the individual. Is this what has worked for this individual? Hargrim, are you convinced by that tale?
Knowing Keat, yes, I am convinced.
Is he a
Because
nice
he really
enough person
has.
to get Dionysian to offer him free
Yeah.
coaching and advice here?
It's not so much the fact that it's free, it's the fact that I've actually noticed in Keith's play that he has increased in level immensely since like some of our first sessions in the beginning of last year. It's crazy how much progress he's made over the past 12 months.
Mike, any questions, any concerns about this tale?
Well, I watch quite a lot of Would I Lie to You, and so I'm being quite specific about this in that he said thanks to spending the last 12 to 18 months with Dio, but it was about 12 months ago that Dio went, wasn't it? So
he went away 6 months ago.
I don't think the time horizons quite match up.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's an easy name to just throw out there and then reveal, do you know what? No, it wasn't him. I've done it all myself because I'm brilliant. I mean, that would be a lovely end to this tale, wouldn't it?
Would.
I was also going to ask, I mean, my question was going to be much simpler, was, has he done any of these sessions for free? And then if the answer was yes, one of them, that was going to be a deal breaker to me. So the fact that he's done it all for free, I'm not... I mean, I do think Keith's got better. I mean, we all saw him. I mean, I do think Keith's got better.
Worse.
But has this been the reason? Describe your mind palace to me.
Well, it's not. Well, I suppose it's more of about not caring as much about the Blood Bowl and the dice, right? We all roll 1 and 9s, we all roll double skulls, but it's the reaction in your mind that you have to rolling these dice. I used to be very uptight, not quite flicky flack levels of this guy, but like I used to get quite diced again, right? But whereas now it's much more calm, peaceful. Okay, we didn't get him this turn, we'll get him next turn. We'll just play safe moves first and then just plan out your turn.
Did you used to tilt then? Did you used to?
I never tilted. A lot of it would, when I was streaming, I used to get quite upset, and I'd go quieter when I was streaming, when things went wrong.
That works
Whereas
really
now-
well when you're streaming, I think, doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Yeah. It really helps grow the brand. But no, like a lot of it is pattern recognition, right? You play, you know, Torque and Greenskin Phil were on last week, and they were talking about putting in the reps.
Yeah.
And I've played a lot of Blood Bowl recently, and yeah, you know, you look at something and you see what it is, you see the shapes, and that's the way Blood Bowl is.
Okay. Your Mind Palace. It's convincing me that it may exist. I want now as concise a definition as you can do of what that expression you've used a few times. There are no dice. What does DO mean by that? There obviously are dice in the game. So
There
what does
are,
there are
yeah.
no dice mean?
Well, it's just more of if you put your players in the correct spaces and you mess up your turn, but you've set up correctly, then it doesn't actually matter what dice you roll. If you're able to put the agency on and force the arrows, if you don't do it on turn 4, you'll eventually make your opponent roll worse dice on turn 5 so that you just have to go in and pick up the ball.
I mean, that's not what it means, but it's an interesting answer. Okay. What do we think about this one? Hargrim, do you think this is the story that is truthful, and has it got Keith to where he is today as the captain of a bunch of people that want to take Chaos Renegades to the Euro Bowl? To the lofty heights that he has risen to.
I'm a bit miffed on this one, to be honest. I don't really know what to think, because there are arguments for why it would be true, there are arguments for why it would be a lie, so I will defer to the wisdom of the council.
Well, I mean, I think one thing we can agree is that back 18 months ago when you were helping him, he was shit. And he's got better since.
I wouldn't say he was shit, he was just playing sub Gucci.
Now we've got that Riz, yo.
You do. Certainly there's been a glow up. But who's responsible for that? Where your new drips come from, I don't know. It does feel like the sort of thing that the dark hand of Dionysian may be involved in. Mike, help me out then with Hargrim abandoning his responsibilities. Which way are we thinking on this?
So I played Keith at Home Nations, and it was a lovely game where there didn't seem to be much mind palacing going on. Wow! It was very enjoyable, and given that Dio disappeared shortly after that, I would say that I don't think there was time to develop a mind palace in between that game and the disappearance, unless the disappearance has just been everyone except for spending time with Keith, which is a life choice.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see myself giving up, my family, my life, my career, most of my hopes and dreams to go and spend some time with Keith. Which of us cannot? Which of us has not fallen asleep dreaming of that exact scenario?
Having met Keith, I can say I have not dreamt of it.
Okay, well, you're missing out. But having met Dionysian, and just how mercantile and mercenary that young man is, the 29-year-old forevermore, I just don't believe he would be helping anyone without lining his own pockets. I just can't see it being for free. And to me, the explanation of there are no dice, he'll never tell you. Of course, he expects you to work it out. But to me, it's much simpler. It's that it doesn't matter what the dice say. What matters is the decisions you've taken. And then what the dice say is uncontrollable. I think you'd have a better definition of that if you'd been working a lot with Dionysian. So I know which way I'm going to go. Do I believe the thesis that 18 months of coaching with Dionysian, say 5 or 6 sessions over that time, would take you to somewhere where you were notably better at Blood Bowl? Yes, I do think that's possible. I don't think you necessarily have to pay a coach to get that advantage. There are all sorts of places you can get it, but I think it is possible to pay for it too. But I know what I think of this specific story. Hargrim, do you think the story is possible? And then do you think it's true?
Possible, yes. True, I don't think so because of the whole timeline issue that there is.
It's another little chink in that armour, isn't it? Okay, yeah. I think we're ready to vote. So on the count of 3, let's see our votes on whether you think this is truth or a lie. 3, 2, 1, show me.
Lie.
Oh, we've all come up with lie. Keith, is it true or a lie?
Well, you've all seen through me. It is a lie.
Lie. Besmirching the good name of Dionysian. Keith gets 0, a point to everybody else.
I thought it was a good little anecdote and a good story to try and finesse through, but
I think it's good.
funnily
Yeah,
enough,
it's good to have a story.
It's good,
Absolutely.
but I think we
funnily
tore at
enough,
the
the
very fabrics
person
of that reality. Um,
Hargrim should have seen through it the most, and he was the one who was closest to believing it, which was funny.
that's because in 18 months he hasn't got better and you have, so he sees that difference. Oh, you know I'm only saying it because it's true. Right, Hargrim, speaking of which, the lovely Hargrim, I believe, will regale us with the second of his joyful stories.
Let's get to the deep end, shall we?
Ooh, let's.
Slaan.
Ooh.
I have had my fair experience with Slaan, both on the receiving end and on the playing end of it. And I simply do not believe that they are a team that belong in Blood Bowl. Starting off purely from the lore perspective, Games Workshop have changed the lore over the past few years to Slaan being Fat Frog, so it doesn't really fit their agenda of having space frogs playing in Blood Bowl. Secondly, their design is unoriginal. Well, because yes, they can do a lot of leaping, but they're basically just vampires but worse. They're also just elves but worse. They don't have any strategies other than I need to go for the ball on turn 2 or turn 3 and try and break you as quickly as possible, because otherwise it's going to be impossible to play the game. They don't really have many good matchups. It's mostly just, what are you doing with a team that is designed in the way that it is when you can play alternatives that are basically just better at what they're supposed to be doing? To me, Slaan is one of those teams that, yes, the idea is nice, but the execution just doesn't seem to be there for me.
Now, of course, we've talked the history of Slaan on this show before. They were invented by the Blood Bowl Rules Committee, which San, in his wisdom, wanted to give permission to give a brand new team a year to design and develop. But that is how Slaan came about. It was a member of the Blood Bowl Rules Committee pushed for them to be made into a team. They got semi-official. I don't think it was ever more than that. Then there was a big whole legal problem. Games Workshop didn't like the idea that someone else felt they had ownership of the team, and we've not seen them since. As Hargrim says, the current version of Slaan that we have a slight sort of remnant of in Blood Bowl is slimmer dancing space frogs. Nowadays, they're all dead, they're all ancient, and they're all more toad-like. I don't think we're ever seeing Slaan as they currently exist come back into Blood Bowl. Doesn't mean that Games Workshop wouldn't reuse the name in some way. But specifically, do we think they should be ended, and do we think Hargrim thinks they should be ended? Keith?
It's a tough one. Because Hargrim does disagree with the whole fan favorites or fan teams and introducing them, but does he disagree with them enough to take a beloved team out of it? I do happen to know that Hargrim has played a bit of Slaan very recently, and maybe it's because he's been playing them that he's thinking, well, these are just rubbish, and as in they're broken, and maybe we should get rid of them. I don't know. Would you see them reworked under what Slaan are now known as in the Fat Frogs, or just completely get rid of them completely?
I could be convinced if a good enough rework were made, but as it is right now, just get rid of them.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that the actual, concept of Slaan is the reason to get rid of them before. Like the leaping, it changes the game, doesn't it? Like in the same way that Vamps do, in the same way that a few other teams
I have a
do.
feeling it's the bit we've not been saying amongst those of us that don't like Slaan.
Ah. So Hargrim's picked up the rock. We looked underneath and realised that
He has. He's looked deep in my eyes and found an issue that connects with my very soul. I've never liked Slaan because of their leaping cage breakiness. But I think it's more reasonable to sort of suffer under than Hypno Cheat, which just completely destroyed a fundamental of the game's mechanics. In a quite fun way, but at the moment an overpowered way. I agree with the flood of people in the chat saying that wouldn't it be nice if Hypno-Chi was imminently about to be 3+? Yes, I think that would be nice. So back on this. Look, I kind of agree. It's not that I hate Slaan. I don't. It's not that I think they're overpowered. I think they are not overpowered. I think they're often mistiered to the point where they can get a little too powered up. So I think that's more the issue to me. I would have them as a tier 2 team. Then they can do things, but they're going to really struggle to do it. Whereas when they're out at, say, 4 of 5 tiers, they're usually coming with enough firepower that everyone should be fearing them. My problem is I don't think the NAF should be making and defending rules. I think they should be ready to step in if we ever get abandoned again. I think we know what that's like. And like an alcoholic woman in her late 50s regretting how well her marriages didn't go. I think we should always be mindful that Games Workshop will screw us over for a penny, and we may need to keep the game going again. But right now we don't. So right now they're throwing out so many new teams. Let's just worry about those. Let's let the old teams die, and let's move into a confident Games Workshop future without Slaan. Yeah, and then let's hope they do something with Slaanesh, or Tzinch, or all the other lore-y things that I don't care about. But personally, I'd be all about this. My next question is, do I think little imp Hargrim believes it? And I think that's a different question to me. I think he may just know something that he thinks lots of people will agree with, that he doesn't. So I think he might be being impish here. Okay, what do you think? Keith, would you be keeping the Slaan? And do you think NAF should be a rule maker?
I'd keep them, I think. Yeah. I don't necessarily think NAF should continue to... I don't know. I'd like them to become an official GW team, but they won't. I do kind of feel that they should be removed because they're not official, but I do like the team. I like playing as Slaan. I'm kind of torn, to be honest. Yeah.
Mike, any final thoughts, words, or questions?
I think they should bring them in as Kislev. I don't understand why they haven't, to be honest, because they were in Blood Bowl 2, weren't they?
Yeah.
And, still are in Blood Bowl 2. So it just makes complete sense to me to bring them in as Kislev, and then people can still use their frogs if they want to. I think the design is right. I think you're absolutely right about the mistiering. I think Blood Bowl 2020 multiple rerolls broke them to a certain extent. And Games Workshop haven't got any incentive to try and fix that in any way because it's not their thing, and that's fine. So I don't think they should be removed. I wouldn't bring them in from here probably, but I also respect the history and respect the fact that people have got miniatures and and enjoy it. They're a fun part of the game and a fun challenge to play against and a fun team to use as well. They're not broken. They don't win every tournament they go to. And they're not in the top percentages of teams that are winning. Like people who are good at Blood Bowl are good with them, and people who are less good aren't as good, which is always a good thing for the elite.
So you'd keep them around?
But I have absolutely no idea whether Adam believes it or not. So that's interesting.
Keith would keep them around. I would certainly bin them. We're going to vote. We're going to find out. So if everyone can get their votes ready to go, I'm just going to. It's all done on trust because no one gives a damn who wins this thing. Okay, so do we think the impish Hargrim has told us the truth or a lie when he says he thinks it's time Slaan were in the bin? 3, 2, 1, reveal. I think he's lying. Keith thinks he's lying.
I've gone true.
And Mike thinks he's telling the truth. Hargrim, is it a truth or a lie?
Oh,
it's a lie!
Oh,
yes.
I'm a big lover of Slaan. I play them whenever I get the opportunity to, and think they're good enough. My last tournament I played Slaan. Granted, it was turncoat, but they're a team that suits the way that I like to play the game. Much in the same way the vampires.
In the past, I've taken teams and star players and so on to show that they're broken, so that people take them out of the game. So you could be taking that. Like the game is what it is, and you play the game, but you can still want it to be changed. You can go within the parameters of the game as such as it is, but want it to change. But turns out not.
Okay, we're going into the final round of the questions. We have one more each to answer. Need to be a tiny bit quicker than we have been, but we're pretty much on time. I would tell you who's in the lead and who's not, but it's going to make it much less interesting if I do. So let's just pretend it's all tight and everything is to play for, because it genuinely is like that. Honest. Now, would Blood Bowl coaches lie to you? Final round. We're going to start with the final point from the delightful Keithabix.
I think gnomes are one of the best things that have happened to Blood Bowl in recent times. I think they have everything. They can fight orcs. They can agile with the elves, and by far, the best stunty team. I think they're whimsical, and I think they're really really cool. And I don't really know. I think gnomes just speak for themselves. I don't know if I need to say much more than that. They're amazing. You get 2 trees, which are stunning. And now they have the new 3-star player as well, so you could have 3 trees on your gnomes. And one of them is movement 3, which is insane. So cool.
So you get three trees with a 3 tree.
Exactly. So beautiful. And like the gnome star players, they're beautiful. Like, have you seen the models? Like, oh yeah. Yeah, Rodney's only 70k. Oh yes. He's so good. And like you get 2 guard on your gnomes. So, and like if you have secondaries, like a lot of people are saying, oh, it's just dodge everything. No, you need another guard lino, I think. Really, really shore it up. Because you have to get into fights. And foxes, 2+2+2+2+2+. I score. You've 1 turn with the fox. You've TTM. It's just the perfect team, isn't it? Really. It's hard to look past it.
I mean, I feel slightly sick. I don't know about anyone else.
It was a good paean to gnomes. It's completely true, obviously.
Gnomes OP.
Gnomes are OP.
Well, can we just start by just putting foxes as strength 1 and see what that does, and we'll move on from there.
No.
I quite liked
No,
when I
we need to
raised
be
my
sensitive.
daughter. She's an adult now and not my fault. I didn't. I've tried. I quite remember there was a time where she used to sit on her handheld, whatever it was, and I would be on my phone, and she'd be playing something called Animal Crossing. And I quite liked how distinct it was from what was on my phone. I look at Blood Bowl now, and I don't see that distinction anymore. There's so many fucking animals on the pitch. And, I mean, yeah, it's great. We want to diversify. We want to bring in all sorts of new people. I don't want furries in Blood Bowl. I don't feel that's a huge market we need to be plummeting here. And I mean, really, geese, badgers, foxes.
We need more.
Stop
More
somewhere.
foxes.
No, you just buy a farm set, Keith, and play with that, really. Get some dice and say, oh, look, I've had a cow. Wonderful.
Oh.
Have fun, but leave
That's
those
how
of
I
us
spent
playing
my
Blood Bowl
childhood.
to not have to deal with all of this nonsense. So, I mean, gnomes, the painters like them. That's the best compliment I can come up with about gnomes, is the people I know that paint, they like them.
Let me tell you a story about gnomes and how good they are. Okay, I'd never played them before. I took them to UKTC, which is a small tournament in the UK. Game 1, I had Deerall's Amazons. My first ever game with gnomes versus the best team in the game with Team Italy coach, who went on to win UKTC, and I got a draw because gnomes are amazing.
But doesn't that mean they're wrong?
Later on in the tournament, I played Bulldog, who was playing Orcs, and he went to Athens with Team England. And I turned him over, Cavs 3 Orcs, and unfortunately did slip a draw, but still another draw against an international team player. And in Game 6, I played Team Scotland's Lord Garlic, with his Undead, who he took to Eurobowl, and I got a draw with Gnomes. So
what you're saying is here that
Orcs,
Gnomes are the best team
and
because
Zons.
a coach like you can get good results against top quality coaches using proper teams with them.
Well, they are a proper team, PC. They're so good. You can fight with the best of them.
Yes, that they can make up for some of the other inadequacies in that little pile I put together.
You did call them a stunty team before, though. I would say that they are not a stunty team.
It used to be
They
very
have-
easy. There were
they have
teams and there were
stunty.
stunty teams. And the stunty teams
They
were
have
taken by the
two
people that either
trees.
didn't want to compete or wanted to compete so hard they wanted to be able to go ha ha, and I did it with halflings. They were not competitive. And gnomes are, and snotlings are, and they can both get in the bin.
You just need more tackle.
Or friendly.
Yeah, it's just the answer. Just tackle.
Is this the
3
rant
dice,
of the
tackle,
dying
gone.
boomer?
You know,
Hargrim,
I think snotlings get too much.
are you a
but
gnome
gnomes,
fancier? Do you want to tickle some little fellas?
Dead air.
I think I've just depressed him.
Oh,
How do the Scandinavians feel about gnomes?
I think gnomes are fun. I haven't played them, granted. They're on my bucket list of teams to play. But I know that there are some people in the camp of sod the little buggers, and I know there are people in the camp of yay, they're fun. We have one coach over here, Short Stuff, who exclusively plays stunties, and he loves the gnomes. He absolutely loves them.
Because they're not fucking stunty.
Well, I mean, they have the stunty trait, so I'd say they are stunty.
and they don't get tiered with the stunties because everyone's realized that they're better. So they're usually a tier or two above most stunties now.
Yep.
So they're not getting as much. Like snotlings are still getting, 10 primaries and 2 star players, whereas gnomes are only getting 6 or 7s.
Well,
Gnomes are, which is
one of my backups was going to be that stunty cups shouldn't be a thing anymore. But
Yeah, I mean, all stunties need to go back to being stunties and getting sort of stunty level win percentages. I'm so in two minds over gnomes. I do mean it as an insult when I say only painters like them. If anyone hasn't worked that out yet, that's pretty damning from me. I care what painters like, though. I mean, they're lovely people. I want them to paint nice things. But what I'm saying there is that they're not good for the competitive side of Blood Bowl. I don't hate the design. I don't hate bringing in a team at that win percentage. I hate that it's a stunty team with that win percentage, because that changes fundamentally what a stunty is in Blood Bowl. I hate the fact that you can have them on NAF. You can then have, as often given to stunties, is way too many primary skills they can never use. Gnomes can. Gnomes can use every one of those in a horrific and potentially impactful way. So they're just really, really different. So, again, I think you may be leaning into something I may think here, in that gnomes are secretly terrible. And that having a strong opinion, that will give me difficulty in working out if you agree that they're the best team in the world. I just don't see how anyone can think they've done anything other than at the best neutral things to Blood Bowl, at the worst really, really harmful things. Mike,
so what was the original? What was the original statement? What are we what are we judging?
It's one of the best things they've done in recent times. Basically,
Okay.
not the best in the world.
Yeah.
So if you look at what else they've done recently, right? They brought out Chorfs. They brought out vampires.
Yeah.
Gnomes, pretty good. You get illusion or trickster. I'm here. No, I'm not here. Ooh.
Yeah, the one time I faced them, he really pissed me off.
Someone's gonna hit him, and then they're like, "Oh no, he's on the other side of you."
That's lots of fun when you're playing gnomes. That's lots of fun.
Yeah.
At least there's only 2 of them. If it was like 6 of them.
Yeah.
That's what we need next. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Trickster team.
Veloxis, let's bring you in on this, Mike, while I think of an answer. Why is having a stunty team with a decent win percentage a bad thing? Surely we want all teams to be viable.
Then it's just not the way it's been, is it? Get rid of stunty cup. Either have all teams viable, or don't have a stunty cup, and don't have the wacky. Oh, I'm just here to have fun. I don't care if I win or not. Oh, look, I've won all my games. The two cannot coexist. I don't think. And both are fine, but not both together.
Yes, my last tabletop event was a 32 player. I took a hilariously abusive Snotling build. The first time in my life I've taken a Star Caddy build, or Coach Morg, or Coach Snotling, so I thought I can get all 3 out of the way at once, then never do it again, hopefully.
Yep.
And I came second, So I didn't get the Stunty Cup because that went to the person that came fourth. So you had 2 Stunties in the top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, why is there a Stunty Cup at that event? That seems foolish to me. So I don't know. I don't know. Hargrim, do you think Gnomes are good, and does Keith think they're good?
I know Keith's a gnome enjoyer. He is
And
a
what
gnome
about in
enjoyer.
Blood Bowl?
I think gnomes are fine. Gnomes are fine. They're whimsical, they're funny, they add something to the people who want to play that sort of gimmicky style. They're not, yes, they're good for a stunty team, but they're not game-breakingly good.
Do you think they're one of the reasons we've seen this creep of, no more than 6 additional dodges on your team?
No.
It's just because plastering dodge across them makes them so much better.
I think the reason we're seeing that in more modern rule sets is because people are tired of seeing the same old builds again and again and again, and they're trying to diversify Blood Bowl more than they are trying to stagnate it or be conservative about a rule set.
Yeah, and yet skill pricing is so difficult to persuade anyone to want to do because it gets so complex instantly. Where block is 3 points, but strip board is 1 point.
But Monkey Ball has been doing it for a decade.
Yes, and yet has reinvented itself this year to get more numbers coming. I just think people got
Well,
away
there's
from
that.
expecting to do any work in their rule sets. They
Yeah.
expect to plug it in and play. Okay, so what do we think about this one? The basic concept that Gnomes are one of the best things Game Workshop has done in the last few years. Do we think Keith is telling us what he thinks there is true, or what he thinks is a lie? Any final questions before we take our votes? Okay, let's see what you think in 3, 2, 1. We all think you're telling us the truth, Keith.
Of course. I just wanted to come on and talk about Gnome.
You just wanted to
Just wanted
bang
an
on
excuse
about
to
your
come
damn
on.
Gnomes.
Yeah. I want to Stunty Cup with Gnome. It was great.
But
sure, who doesn't these days?
But yeah, does it count in the eyes of many? Okay, with only 3 little issues left to go, let's crack in. We can get there. Let's go to Hargrim.
Okay. I'm going to preface this. I have had some bad tournaments before, but none beat some of them. I choke at rather large events. It's due to a lot of different factors, both medical and some mental issues. I think I get in my head too often, and either my ego gets the better of me, or I somehow manage to just think I'm supposed to win because of a racial matchup or other things. So this has led to me going 117 in Alicante, the famous result. It led to my last Eurobowl being a bit of a disaster for me as well. It led to me missing out on Team Denmark twice. And it is something I am still working on to try and see if I can actually perform at international events, at larger international events.
Oh, wow. Inexplicably deep and touching moment there in the middle of a very light-hearted show. Thanks for that massive change of mood, Hargrim.
You're welcome.
You should try playing Gnomes.
I do believe that. I love a complicated free song, personally. So what do we think? I think it's pretty unarguable that Hargrim chokes, doesn't it? So which part of this are we assessing for truth?
Well, do you win small tournaments? Do you do well at small tournaments?
I do, yes. I generally tend to perform quite well at smaller tournaments, and even when I travel internationally, for example at Reva, I did quite well as well. Well, relatively speaking. It's just the large end of year events that I usually choke at.
I think the first thing to say is if you're turning up to these with a large version of expectation on yourself, you should just drop that, because there's no way I expect you to win any of them. So surely the pressure's not there.
I think I put the pressure on myself more than anyone, because I want to do well, and I want to perform, and I want to make certain ambitions or reach certain ambitions.
Do you think team tournaments are more pressure and Is
Team
that part of
tournaments
it?
put a lot more pressure on me than individual tournaments, because if I have a bad result individually, it's not going to affect my team. It's going to affect my team if I perform poorly at a team event.
So someone's made a reasonable point. Star Ferrets, he's made it quite harshly, but you can do well at small tournaments, and then you step up a tier to large tournaments where the quality of play is higher.
The difference
I'm not meaning to be harsh, by the way. I'm just
no, you're absolutely right. This is a point that needs to be made. The difference is that when you go to a small local tournament in Denmark, you're going to meet 3 to 4, maybe even 5 national team players, because our spread is quite low. So the quality of Blood Bowl is a lot higher, because suddenly, like, you're drawing tank round 1, you lost, and now you're playing triple skull round 2. Like,
I mean, I would say that's true all over the place. But again, the tournament I went to in December, statistically, it was proven to me that I was the bull goose by quite a distance in terms of NAF rankings. So there are times to turn up and pick the entire field. But mostly, I think even smaller tournaments, you're going to get some decent players everywhere in Blood Bowl nowadays, except Bromley. I love Bromley. So, okay, and yeah, he wasn't drinking that much out in Alicante, but he did famously go the 007, the Bond score, before coming back with that clutch win and draw, which salvaged some level of self-respect, I suppose, for the poor young man. And I mean, I think of Hargrim as a good player with good knowledge of the game. These seem outlier results to me, so I'm convinced he might think this is true. It might just be bad luck, of course. Keith, what do you think?
Well, I know Adam quite well, and we do a lot of training sessions together. I know he can perform. I know well that his mindset is perfectly fine. It is interesting, the form at international tournaments, and it could just well be the pressure of being on the team and trying to deliver for your teammates,
It's a
as
tiny
well as
little
just
sample
getting.
size, though, isn't it?
Sure, but he's a small little person as well, so it all evens out. Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting, right? Because and something we're going to have to look at for Killarney, because he's my teammate and we're going to try and win the tournament. So it'll be a good motivator to see.
You picked him.
He said he was coming, so no, of course I picked him. We're going to win. He's in good training.
Is
He's a
that
good
one that you
hand,
feel pressure for, Hargrim?
what, sorry?
Give us an insight. Is that one you feel pressure for?
Less so.
It's probably good news, Keith.
It's good, yeah. The pressure gets to him, apparently. the less choking we can get away with, the better. So it's just a small little tournament in Ireland. We'll be playing against Renegades and OWA most of the weekend. Easy wins. I might take Gnomes.
Is it just me,
even,
or after I've been
just out of
trying to cram
curiosity.
the jokes in for 2 hours, has Keith just seamlessly come up with the filthiest thing anyone's said on my show for weeks? Good. Glad it wasn't just me. Did he stop making people try and play with your knobs? So, does Hargrim, bless him, believe that he chokes at major tournaments due to the stress? I mean, I do think he chokes at major tournaments. I think there is better Blood Bowl in Hargrim than comes out in these key clinch environments. And you can say he's been drinking all night, or he was only 12 when the last World Cup took place. But that's true of lots of people. And I think his results dipped notably. And I felt very sorry for the young man, and somewhat horrified by how the rest of his national team just decided the right answer to this was open and public mockery, which was, to be clear, only part of the answer. That needed to be leavened with a soupçon of support and love, which I do believe he got from the wider community. So, I don't know, I think I'm pretty much, I think case proven. You genuinely don't think you choke at smaller tournaments ever? You've won things, you felt all calm about it.
Because of the playing field in Denmark, it gets quite difficult for me to win tournaments. I have won one tournament here alongside Seabrawl. We won a 40-man team tournament 2 years ago. Was it 2 years? Yeah, 2 years ago. And I generally tend to perform at individual tournaments quite a lot.
I mean, I find it convincing. So I know which way I'm voting.
Yep.
Grab your vote cards, ladies and gentlemen, and let's see what we think of this latest tale by the lovely young Hargrim. We will show them in 3, 2, 1, show. We all think you've told us the truth there, Hargrim. Is that how you see yourself?
It's true.
No.
Larger events get quite stressful for me for several reasons. One of them is I get very overstimulated very quickly with a lot of noise. That is
Think
impartial
about
due to my.
cricket or Margaret Thatcher.
Don't get me started on Maggie Thatcher.
I find just if I'm overstimulated, I find those two work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because of my condition, I very quickly get very overstimulated, and a lot of input and a lot of noise can very quickly alter my decision making when I'm sat playing over the board.
Yeah.
So at events like Alicante, a lot of it was ego, but part of it was also I was just starting my medication, and the noise was unbearable for me. I should have brought earplugs for the weekend, but I didn't seem to learn that for Athens either.
Yeah, I mean, I will always take the piss because it's who I am as a human being, but you know how much I felt for you out in Alicante, and
I think everyone felt bad for me in Alicante.
how
Everyone
much
who
I
knew me, at
genuinely
least.
think your teammates let you down. I think there should have been someone there whose job they thought it was is to make sure you were okay. And I'm sure the wider community did do that, but I think someone on Team Denmark should have done too.
I wasn't playing for Team Denmark. I was playing with the Ladonians.
Oh, yeah, but
that
same
weekend.
thing. You know what I mean? Someone on your team, I mean, should have been doing that too.
I mean, they were taking the piss, but I was handling it quite well.
You were.
It got to me the first 3 games, and then after the 4th game I lost, I was just like, yeah, whatever.
And after the 7th one, yeah, it's just they all meld into one, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay, we have but a couple of stories left. Mike, let's hear your final one.
Right, well, we're going to go highbrow for this one. I'm going to introduce you to a particular mathematical concept, which is behind my firm belief that logos on D6s should not be allowed. I think that, I was lying about the D12s, but I think every D6 should be, 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots. And this is because they're combined with other D6s to get a total score quite often. And the concept is called subitizing, which is being able to count without counting. So when you look at 2 dice, some people go, okay, there's 3 on that one and there's 2 on that one. That makes a total of 5. But generally, people just look at the dice and see 5 dots, and they don't have to count the dots. But this is completely ruined if there is a picture of something on one of the sides, and it just makes it very hard to concentrate on the game because you're having to take yourself out of the game in order to think, right, well, that's a 6 and then that's a 3, so I have to add 6 to 3 and make 9. And I think it gives an annoying level of something that's not needed within the game. I think just being able to look at dots and count dots is enough for the game, because the game is not really about rolling dice. It's about getting your people in the right place and making the best decisions. And I think logos on 6s are distracting, and that's even without getting into the issue of logos on 1s, which are a whole nother layer of hell.
Yes, I do think we need to talk about should we even allow people to put logos on the 1s. Both me and Krista famously thought that the F for the failing of the fumble on fumble meant that the picture was most correctly put on the 1 dice, not on the 6. But no one that planned to use them agreed in any way, shape or form, so that only ever happened with the first ever run of fumble dice. There is one set of fumble dice out there with the fumble on the 1. I've got a really important counterpoint to make, which I think you haven't considered here, which is, but pretty. So I'm just going to say that, really.
In your vast collection of Blood Bowl dice that you keep and you treasure for always once you've been given.
I mean, I kind of slightly do.
Multiple fumble ones don't count.
No, I have lots of fumble block dice, but this great thing is entirely full of little D6s that I've been given at tournaments I've been to, and at NAF things, and by people in person, and I keep them in this bag in a drawer
In the darkness.
where they live secretly and safe.
Mine are in that big blue box there. That's all my Blood Bowl dice. They just sit there and hang out.
And actually, the dice I need are all in my actual tournament box. That's it. That's the dice I take and use all the time. So it's also been mentioned to me by one of the great and the good amongst the Blood Bowl community that really we need to look at our carbon footprint, and that constantly producing all these D6 gift dice is hugely wasteful to the environment, and hence harming the world we want to leave our children. But pretty. Keith, you're young, you should care about your future. You possibly have one. D6s, is it a bad thing? Is it a waste? And should, for just the eye, the ability of the brain to seize the numbers, and just the fact that we're producing... It used to be you got the occasional free dice. You get them everywhere now. Sleep with a hooker in Leeds, you get a couple of D6s for it. It's really, they are just everywhere. Surely it's time we called a stop on it.
There, yeah, everywhere you go, you get dice. And the worst thing is, they cost a fortune. I was trying to get a set of Irish dice done as potential gifts for Eurobowl, which I was talked out of. But I was looking into getting 250 dice, and I was quoted nearly $2,500 for a set of 10 dice, and it's insane. So no wonder loads of companies are making loads of money. I suppose back to Mike. So do you use dice with logos on the sixes then?
Nope. I've got a set. I've got 4 D6s. I've got 6 original 1996 NAF block dice. I've got a D8, and that's it.
And now D11s.
I have got a D11, but I don't tend to use it because the problem with D11s is similar to the problem of using a D8 for your casualty roll, is that it takes longer to explain than to just roll the D16. But I do like rolling 3 D8 together for throw teammate because the joy of explaining that is fun.
Now, I had an issue in that I went to a tournament recently, and whereas you can see the lovely fumble dice that I tend to use there in purple, I was given for attending these little tiny bits of crap. Now,
just standard dice.
They
You
obviously
get those
have
for cheap.
no logo upon them. They're not
Yep.
even a standard size of dice. Look
Beautiful.
how they're trying to squeeze the number of pips in there. So I do see that we need some sanity. These can go in the bin, obviously. They're of no use to me.
It's funny you say it, PC. One of my opponents at the last tournament I was at gave me a smaller set of dice as well. But these ones glow in the dark.
Okay, then there's half a reason for them to exist.
Like, I don't know if there's any way I could possibly demonstrate it on camera with the lighting, but they slightly look more green when they're cupped in my hand.
I've got to say,
Caelan's in the chat, right? You just said it looks slightly more green when it's kept in my hand. This is not good.
I mean, we've already talked about choking. It's fine.
I've got to say, one of my favorite sets of dice
Keith
is
pegged.
actually...
I think those are the best dice currently existent in the world.
They are.
And they were rolled with my
symbols. Yay for
with
me.
my purple snot elites, or purple snot leet that I rolled down in Bromley. That was the dice I took. I love some dice. I love how completely mad the Blood Bowl dice collecting community is, and I wouldn't want them angry at me, let alone if they were armed or if they knew where I lived. So, and some of them do have my address. So this is an ongoing active concern for me. So I'm never going to back anything that will annoy those lovely people that collect their dice. You can count me out here. I do think we've got beyond where it's all very reasonable. The amount of free dice we're getting on the average year is just getting insane. I don't know what the answer is. People love a free gift, and a dice is such an obvious one.
I mean, we actually had this discussion when we went to Athens and when we went to the Slaan Team Cup, is do we really want to do dice? We ended up doing dice for Athens, but we did like these 3D printed Ladonia tokens. Actually, I can show them. I've got them right here.
I can show them. I got one right here. Jesus dice.
So we had these tokens 3D printed instead because we thought everyone else is going to be given dice and they're going to have enough dice for their grandmother to have 30,000 sets. So why not make something different? Let's make these tokens instead.
Actually, the things from Athens that have made it into my entirely metallic collection of things I keep, because we were explaining before we went on air, my gaming drawer has limited power in my world. My wife just won't hear of it. So every sort of year or two, I just empty it out. Everything I don't actually actively use or want to keep, I throw on eBay for zero money. And that way it's more about giving it to people that want it and will find a use for it than how much I make for it. But rather than just bin stuff people have given to me, which also feels wrong, that feels a better way of just keep it out there. And some of the stuff you look at and you think, has that got a place in my future? And the one at the moment that is, I'd like to be replaced with better, but I have 5 of the Athens stunned little metal plates that you can slide under a player, so you don't have to flip them back and forth between stunned and prone. You can just slip this in or out. You can also use it for hypnogazing, things like that. And I think that's what I've kept. It's not any of the dice from Greece. Those went straight into a bag that lives in my drawer. But I'd still like getting them. It's still special when you look down at, you come back from a trip and you've got, 8 little new pairs of D6 that you'll never ever roll. And a figure that you don't care about and doesn't fit any of your teams. That's still really special. I don't know why now, because it's obviously an empty, hollow moment. Just deeply illustrative of the emptiness in all of our souls on our slow grind towards death. Okay, so, brilliant. Any more questions about Mike's hatred of a logo on a D6?
Nope.
Okay, then it's time to vote. Do we think he genuinely wants the logos on D6s to be removed because statistically it is a better thing for the rolling of the dice, and you can also then cognitively tell quicker and easier what the score is? Firstly, do we agree with his issue that the D6 should go back to having 6 faces with just dots on them? Hargrim?
Nope. I like symbols on my
Keith?
dice. It makes them a lot prettier.
I like seeing shamrocks when I roll my d6
Uh,
and gnomes, but I haven't got any of them.
you will
Oh, I
never,
have
you will never
actually.
take you will never take my
I have
D6
one,
away from me and my D6 brethren. I got your back. There's no way I would have voted for that. Do we think Mike thinks this is the truth? I will ask you to vote in 3, 2, 1, vote. Oh, I think he's trying to pull the...
It is true.
It is true, you bad man. You fooled me, you bad man.
But also, it had to be true because otherwise I'd have had 3 lies, and that would have been good.
I refuse to game it that way.
But you were supposed to have 1 lie, so the fact that you had 2.
No, you could have at least one lie, at least
least
one
one lie.
truth, unless you didn't. Okay. There's only one more issue. It's mine. So very briefly, we will go into the final issue of the night. This one should be nice and quick. If you go to a tabletop tournament, you should be compulsorily joined to the NAF. No option, no opt-outs. Everyone that does a tabletop tournament gets their results stored by the NAF forevermore. However, it should also be free, and it should raise money through a shop rather than by charging people for being members. So, everyone should be a member of the NAF, but it should be free. That's what I think.
Do you think every tabletop tournament ever should be run by the NAF? Then?
Yes.
No tabletop tournaments are run by the NAF.
Should be
Well,
statistically
you know what I mean.
curated by the NAF.
Even specialist tournaments.
Well, no,
Which
because I
are?
don't think they should really exist. Gutter Bowl and Beach Bowl and all of that can exist and can have a corner of the NAF if it wants. I don't really care about it. But I think if it's a tabletop Blood Bowl game, the NAF should keep the score and everyone should be involved.
My only problem with it is there's no way of tracking it in that someone could just lie. Someone could say, "This is my first tournament. I've never played in an NAF tournament before," and they could say that at every single tournament they went to, unless we have universal, ID cards, and you thumbprint every time you go into a.
I mean, they could, but the second time they turn up in a London tournament, some of us are going to recognise them.
That's true.
So there's a limited amount of these, lies and abuses that won't actually happen that will happen.
So corollary to this is the whole non-NAF account that was created recently, which I'm not a huge fan of. I can see why it was done, but I don't know.
It's trying to
Personally,
solve
I
the same
don't
problem,
think
but rather than my elegant solution, it's trying to use a sledgehammer. The problem being, if I turn up to a NAF event, and if I am going insane like my guest on the last show, and trying to get to 190 wins or games in a year. If suddenly I turn up for a 6-game weekend and 2 of my games are against non-registered people, and it's increasingly now we have this wonderful series of tournament series going on all around the UK. So in everywhere other than the Northeast, which is odd because they always had a series. They've recently lost their organiser. I'm sure they'll be back. But so in every region of England, you can now join a tournament series, which is 10 tournaments over the year. You're trying to get the best score you can in, say, 4 or 5 of them, and that goes into a final leaderboard. That can be completely ruined by just one of those games being against someone who's a non-NAF member. And then you don't meet your score on that particular event. You've got to go to a whole new event, or your one best event is ruined by that one score not counting. I think it's time to take the selfish people out. If we force opt everyone in, then for a start they're getting something for free, just being run, organised and monetised by NAF and the tournament organisers. And I think when someone has got something for free that tracks all their data, it will help them get involved more. They will care more and we will retain more players. So there we are. Make them do it.
I think it would have a lot more weight a year ago before the non-NAF, because the non-NAF just completely moots that whole my game isn't being recorded. I have 2 games on Norse, even though I played a 3-game tournament, and now I have to play Norse again at some point, which isn't a bad thing, but it doesn't count as a race, and that annoys me. I know a couple of people who strongly disagree with having to join the NAF, and they often look for tournaments that are non-NAF run for their own reasons. I completely disagree.
Yeah, and
with
I
them.
know 14-year-olds that are goths, but we all get over the rebellion phase, and then we realise that as a society we're in it together. Not Hargrim, obviously. As a society we're in it together, and that sometimes means things we don't like. I don't agree with all the speeding limits, but
Is that why Hargrim still likes choking then? The goth thing.
Only at large tournaments.
Only large tournaments. Only when there's a lot of people around. Yeah.
just
Because he's
silk.
used to being a goth in small groups.
Make sure it's silk. That's my only tip. So I think, look, there's times to be a bit. It's not elitist to say it's for everyone. It's positively communist. It's saying this isn't just for the elite. It's for everyone that plays any kind of Blood Bowl. We'll just track the results, so they're always there for everyone. Nice and simple. Just keep it completely non-elitist. Couldn't be more invitational to everyone. Any questions, concerns, or worries? I've hit the magic 2 hours. I'm happy to stop now. So if you just want to vote and stop, we can stop. Any questions? Okay, my final proposition. Do you agree with me that we should be forced joining all players to the NAF?
With the implementation of the new non-NAF bot number ranking thingy, I don't think it's necessary to force people into joining the NAF. I think a year ago, yeah, maybe we could have this discussion, but now it's a bit redundant to sort of talk about it because we have the data for non-NAF people.
Okay, thank you for the heavily implied criticism of my choice of topic. Keith?
Yeah, I have the same opinion as Hargrim. I want my games against non-NAFs recorded. Doesn't really bother me whether they're NAF members or not. I played my game. I want my non-games to count, and that's all that matters.
So selfish. It's about the community, guys. It's about trying to build something here. Mike?
I would make it free, and if
so would I. That was in my proposition.
Yes, absolutely. And the only problem with not getting people to sign up is that you couldn't carry on with a person being completely new. But as you say, once you knew them, you could. So I kind of agree without being overly authoritarian.
Okay. The next question to ask you is this something I believe to be true? Is this true? Do I believe this? Or is this a lie? Okay. If you could collect your answers and show them in 3, 2, 1, go.
It's split.
This one is true. So, let me just do the pointing on that. So that's to me, one to Keith, none to Hargrim. Okay, So this is not very me. I don't usually believe in forcing people to do things. I think if it's free, I'm not forcing you. I'm just collecting the data. That's how I would justify it. So I don't think the ANAF, I think it needs a fundamental reset, it needs another look at how it's done. I don't think it should be charging people for joining. I think that should be free. I think it can make all that money back through a nice little shop, or a second tier of joining where you join for free or you join and get your yearly joins at maybe 15 or 20 quid. I think there's ways of it generating just as much, if not more, without having to charge its user base. And I don't think it looks into enough sponsorship options and things like that. All you need to do, Krista, is to get them to sign something for taking part in the tournament. It's literally just they can waive that right away with one little whip of a pen. So, and Santa, I do kind of agree that it's not join or don't play. It's everyone that plays, your data will be recorded. It's not, you haven't joined anything. There's nothing to join at that point. It just happens to everyone who plays a game. But I think with the non-NAF player as an option, that has solved a good half of this to the point where I'm no longer in any way up in arms about it. But I do think that is the model moving forward, is a free NAF where everyone gets all their data recorded. And hence there's no paywall barrier to going and looking at that data. That's available for free to everyone too. And I think that would be a better system and not elitist at all, the exact opposite. But there we are. That is what we thought of those 12 issues. And we were mostly pretty good at spotting who went where. For those of you that need to know the answers, then clearly the big winner from tonight was me. And no one else did quite as well.
Oh.
So that's, I think that's... No, if I actually add the actual points up, the winner by quite some distance is Mike Davis. So congratulations to our champion on the inaugural One World, One Blood Bowl quiz show. If you can think of a format that we could do this in again, I would love to. But for now, that will do. The rest of us were pretty much on a match. I think I was a tiny squeak ahead of possibly Hargrim, with Keith maybe at the back. But I'm just not bothered enough to really add them up. Because Mike won by such a distance that it's just humiliating. He was right all the time. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be meeting some new people to meet, one of whom literally sent me an email out of the blue after the painting session saying, that's all very good, but you've completely ignored half of all of that, which is sculptors and kit bashers. And I went, so who are you then, and what do you do to do with Blood Bowl? And they explained it to me, and I went, oh, you might have a point. So as I didn't know what to talk about, I didn't know I should have invited some of them on. So I'm doing that. We have a sculptor, we have a kit basher, and we have, hopefully, we have actual Brute Fun themselves, maker of some of the most popular STL files, currently winging their way around the Blood Bowl community and around the Etsy site. Tends to be where I find those all the time. So hopefully we can discuss what that means in Blood Bowl and what those people have to tell us about their Blood Bowling in 2 weeks. After that, we'll find some other things to talk about. But if everyone could wave and say thank you and goodbye, that was Blood Bowl number 60. Would Blood Bowl coaches lie to you? The answer is yes, but not very successfully.
Bye now.
All right, thanks for that, guys.
Yeah,
Sorry
no,
about my near-death fit halfway through.
Yeah, that was bad. I was